And welcome back to the Filthy Liberal Scum podcast. This is your host, Justin, the Filthy Liberal Scum Rosario. We have here the Mike Murphy.
Hello.
And the Fat Smoke Bastard.
Well, I'm here. I'm really here by a Vulcan mind meld.
Sorry, that joke just crashed.
Yeah, really. When you open your mouth, you hesitated. You're like, oh,
Real
what's that
quick,
word?
your evil twin popped his mouth open and embarrassed himself on Twitter. The other Mike Murphy. That's why we call the reason we call him the Mike Murphy is because there's a conservative talking head Mike Murphy. What the hell is he doing?
He was John McCain's campaign manager.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
04, I think, yeah, 2000.
And he just absolutely embarrassed himself on Twitter a couple days ago. Ezra Klein wrote about it. Paul Krugman wrote about it. Basically, what Krugman's been saying and what other people have been saying is that it doesn't matter what you offer the Republicans, they're always going to say no, and then they'll just find all these different reasons. Yeah. Okay, so Mike Murphy, the consultant, the right-wing consultant, was saying, well, all Obama has to do is six magic words or something like that. It's like change CPI, blah blah blah. Right now. I read that. Now, I don't follow him on Twitter, but as I was reading the article, as soon as I read that, I was like, he's already offered that. I remembered he offered that because the left freaked out when he offered that. There was this huge, like, oh my God, he's going to cut Social Security. What the fuck is wrong with him?
Well, it cuts, it slows the growth of Social Security.
Well, yes, but still.
It's indexed to inflation, and that would, like, say, all right, you're going to make it less over the long term, which is pretty bad.
But still, it cuts into Social Security in any way, shape, or form.
It assumes that if you're forced to buy a peanut butter sandwich instead of eating meat for dinner, that it's just as good. It's just as good.
Exactly. And that cat food. It's good for cats.
Over the long term.
And it's the same size as a can of tuna
over the
fish.
long term, it would actually cost you some real money.
Exactly. So, someone pointed out to him, was like, yeah, Obama actually offered that. It's like, oh, no. But if he'd really offered it, he wouldn't, why has he turned it down, blah, blah, blah. And DeLinto was like, no, he's actually offered that. And he said, yes, I will do this. Well, and there's reasons that they wouldn't trust him, and there's other things that he has to do. Blah, 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 blah. And what someone had pointed out, one of the Krugman and others pointed out, is like it doesn't matter. They will always find some kind of excuse. And Ezra Klein had said, no, I don't think that's true. Blah blah blah. This that, and the other. And not that Ezra Klein is a centrist by any means, but he said, nah, I don't know. But then he watched it unfold on Twitter in real time. You tell them exactly what they want to hear, and they will immediately find some excuse. Any excuse. A really stupid excuse. It doesn't matter. They'll just make something up. They're like, oh, no. Yeah, that's no. And Ezra Klein went ahead and wrote, like, no, I was wrong. They won't take it no matter what. Okay. Which I thought was actually quite interesting. And Mike Murphy was the person that let everyone know that, yes, the Republicans are absolutely full of shit. They will say, yes, we want, until you give it to them. They'll say, well, I don't know.
If you're in favor of what Obama likes it, then I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And someone did a blind study recently in the last couple of days where they put up the Republicans' plan for the sequester and Obama's plan for the sequester, and they didn't tell them which was which. And most of them picked Obama's, and that was among conservatives. Because conservatives, if they don't know Obama's name is attached to it, think he's perfectly reasonable. As soon as they hear his name's attached to it, then it's just like, socialism, Nazi, Muslim, Fox News told me he's evil, blah, 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 blah. Which just goes to show you conservatives are fucking morons. But I've been saying that for years, so.
Well, it's like the Affordable Care Act. It was Romney's plan in Massachusetts. It was, it was promoted by Bob Dole when he ran for president. It was an alternative to Hillary Clinton.
And they thought it was great back then.
And they were like, oh, this is great. And, Heritage Foundation supported it.
And even 4 months before Obama introduced it, there were Republicans on the record saying that we should do this because they thought he was going to introduce single payer. So they figured they would just do the same playbook again. They were just going to push the same thing. And then Obama said, no, we'll do that. And 4 months later, no, that's socialism.
All right. I'm against it now.
That's terrible, which goes to show you Republicans are also full of shit. So, but I've been saying that for years, too. Shocking. I can't believe I was right. How did that happen? How did it happen? So anyway, all right.
Well, I've been pissed off about the messaging thing. I think Obama and his team have made a really big mistake on the sequester, and that is that what they should have been saying since long before the sequester kicked in is, A, no, we're not raising taxes, we're closing loopholes. Anytime anybody said anything about raising taxes, they should have said, no, we're done raising taxes. We did that already. We want to close loopholes for rich people. Just close loopholes, not raise taxes. And because they haven't been correcting reporters every time reporters say it, even Obama's own people have been saying raise taxes, which is not what he wants to do. He wants to close.
Well, they say increase revenue, which
it's semantics, honestly.
No, actually, I have heard. I think it was what was the name of the guy who threatened?
You mean the non-threat threat?
Yes. What's the name of that guy, Murph?
The guy, the one with Woodward.
Oh,
where Woodward embarrassed himself publicly.
Oh, his budget director?
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name now.
I heard him saying raise taxes, and that's not what he wants to do. He doesn't want. I've heard Obama say raise taxes instead of raising revenues, but really what he should say is closing loopholes. And the biggest thing they should be saying every single time is all we want to do is implement Mitt Romney's plan. All we want to do is all we're doing is implementing Mitt Romney's campaign promise.
Of course, Mitt Romney never specified what loopholes he wanted.
Doesn't matter.
They don't need to know.
Mitt Romney and John Boehner were talking about 4 months ago closing loopholes.
Right.
And there should be ads all over television paid for by the DNC of Mitt Romney saying he wants to close loopholes and John Boehner saying they want to close loopholes. And the problem is because Obama has not been saying this is the Republican plan. They wanted to close loopholes, and now all of a sudden they're against it. Because he's not saying that, now Mitt Romney did an interview on Fox.
Yeah, like anyone cares what he has to say at this point. But
yeah, but the thing is, they wouldn't even be able to... They would have to hide Mitt Romney in a box, in a closet someplace. If Obama had just been doing his job and saying, it's Mitt Romney's plan. All I want to do is implement the Republican campaign promise. And if he had been saying that all along... They would have been in a much worse position right now, and they would have to hide Mitt Romney in a box instead of letting him speak at CPAC.
All right, so here's the thing you need to know about Republicans. The way they operate these days is they demand cuts, demand cuts, demand cuts, but then they demand that the Democrats be the ones to pick the cuts, okay? And this is the game they play. Oh, well, if you're not going to name what cuts you want, you're not being serious. Oh, well, let's hear what cuts you want. Well, if you're not going to name cuts, you're not being serious.
Right.
And because they don't want to have their fingerprints on it. They don't want to be attached to any of the cuts whatsoever.
Yeah.
All they want to be able to say is, we demand huge cuts. And the second the Democrats say, well, here's cut X, Y, and Z, I can't believe you're making these cuts. How could you do that?
Right.
What's wrong with you? You know, and this is what they're doing. That's what they did with the sequester. The sequester is something that they championed, that they voted on in majority. More Republicans voted for it than Democrats, okay? But now they're like, well, the sequester is Obama's. Obama's the one that came up with sequester. He's the one that invented it. He had no choice. As if Obama somehow forced them to do it with his Jedi.
Well, great question to ask. Like, how come every time a Republican is in office, the deficit keeps going up? If there was that concern about budget deficits and they all...
Well, that's besides the point.
Keep spending in check.
We're going to do that right now. Murphy, what's the deficit?
All right, the deficit is...
No, he's wrong. No.
Well, I mean, okay, year to year, how much money we're spending.
Over how much we take in.
Right.
In revenue.
Right.
What's the debt?
That is the overall picture, right? That's how much money we've accumulated in debt plus interest.
Okay.
Over the
so
past
would it be
150
accurate
years.
to say that the deficit is the credit card usage and the debt is the credit card bill?
Right.
Okay?
The credit card statement.
The statement.
That's what
There's a bill
that's
of
what he
month.
meant. That's what he meant.
No, that's true. Okay, so that's the difference between the debt and the deficit. Fox News deliberately confuses these two because they like to say, "Oh,
Well, it's easy because I sometimes get like.
and shame on you for that.
Oh, look.
Shame.
Right before we started, Murphy got confused.
It's honestly, most people say, how is a grand picture. Don't tell me the month to month. Tell me how much do we owe in general.
No, but the month to month is very important.
The
Because
month-
that
It
tells
is.
you whether or
Of
not you're
course
going
it
the
is.
right direction or the wrong
But most
direction.
people don't see
Right.
the forest for the trees. Like,
And
how
this,
much do we
but no,
owe?
and that's a deliberate move on the right's part. Fox News and AM hate radio and Rush Limbaugh.
Well, they would have you all believe that all $16.5 trillion is Obama's fault.
But no, besides that, what they always do is they conflate the two words, debt and deficit. They make them the same. Okay, they confuse them on purpose because they know people will say, "Oh, Obama's increasing the deficit." debt, whatever it is. Oh, he's increasing it. Now, the debt has no choice to go up until such time as we eliminate the deficit. Okay, when you get rid of the deficit, it's called a surplus. When did we have a surplus? Bill Clinton.
Right.
When was the last time a Republican had a surplus?
Zero.
Never. Okay? Hasn't happened. Actually, I don't know if it's happened ever in the entire history of the country since they were actually Republicans.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. So, as longer than anyone's been alive.
To be fair, we've been running the debt over the course of the last 150 years.
Right, but the Republicans have never, ever paid anything into the debt. Ever.
Let's at least say Reagan and...
That's because Ronald Reagan showed them the way. Deficit spending doesn't matter.
So, until there's a Democrat, and then deficit doesn't matter.
That is
so now,
in the future.
Deficit is how much we spend over how much we take in. Now, here's an important bit, okay? Obama has lowered the deficit more than every president in the history of the country combined. Period. Math. Done. He's knocked off $500 billion off the deficit. Not the debt. The deficit. When he took office, the 2009 budget, which was written in 2008 and passed in 2008 by Bush and a Democratic Congress. Well, there were some Republicans, but you know the Democrats had a majority in what, the Senate or the House at that point? The House. Did they?
Both.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, both.
From 2006.
That's right. They took it over. They took it over in 2006. So in 2008, they passed this was Bush's budget. Now, Republicans will want to say, well, it was a Democratic Congress, but the budget's always blamed on the president no matter what. They try to blame it when it's a Republican president, it's Congress. When it's a Democratic president, it's the president. Bullshit. It's the president. That's how they always talk about it. That's how we're going to discuss it.
The president certainly has more control than anybody else because he can either decide to sign it or not sign it.
Exactly. Bush signed a budget in 2008 for 2009. So the 2009 budget that Obama walked in, the day he walked into the White House, they said, here's your budget. And the deficit on that budget was $1.4 trillion. Okay? So when you hear Republicans talk about how Obama tripled the deficit, no. He walked in the door and they handed him a tripled deficit. And even that isn't really true because before that, Bush wasn't counting the both Iraq and Afghanistan wars were not added to the budget. Okay? They were added afterwards in emergency spending. How you have an emergency spending 6 years after you start a war? I don't know.
Well, they're obviously trying to shield the true cost.
Well, that's exactly what it was. It was a budgeting gimmick they used, so it wouldn't show a huge deficit, even though the spending was still there. And they decided
the borrowing was still there.
Yeah, and they decided, we're just going to add that to the deficit this time and have it show up on the budget just in time for the next guy to walk in the door. So, and the Republicans went right to work, saying that yes, this was Obama's budget, $1.4 trillion, even though in 2009. He did not pass it. In 2016, whoever walks in the door in 2017, they get Obama's budget. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Hillary Clinton. They will have Obama's last budget. That's what they're going to have to work with. Okay? That's just how it is. And this is something they don't like to discuss. They like to kind of whitewash that one. So Obama walks in the door. It's a $1.4 trillion deficit. This year, the budget, even though they won't let him pass one properly, but the expenditures are slated to be under $900 billion, which means like $865 billion, okay? Which means in 4 years, Obama has knocked off $500 billion with a B, okay? A big old B. He knocked off $500 billion off of the deficit, okay? No president has, he knocked off a third of the deficit. No president has ever done. Well, there was Clinton got to a surplus, but he didn't.
And then the war in Iraq had a lot to do with that too.
Well, no, it wasn't. No, it was way more than that. The war in Iraq cost a lot.
And we shed a lot of people before the sequester. We laid off a ton of people.
Exactly, and government spending has dropped dramatically under Obama. Now, granted, while this is like woohoo, on the other hand, it's terrible because it doesn't help the economy. Every president, when they hit a recession, immediately increases government spending, including Reagan. Including Bush Jr. or Senior, whatever the hell he is. You know, HW and W. They both increased government spending in a recession because that's what you do. That's Economics 101. The only people who say otherwise are Republicans, and they only say that when it's a Democratic president. So Obama did what no president has ever done in the history of this country, possibly the history of the world, and 90% of the country has no idea the deficit went down. They all think it went up.
Something like 90%, 95% believe that we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Now, we are going deeper into debt because we're still deficit spending, but Obama knocked off a third of that deficit spending. If a Republican did that, they would be on Mount Rushmore.
No, but I mean, basically, we're drowning in less red ink than we would have been.
But that's the point. He knocked off $500 billion. If you're gonna yell at the guy for increasing the deficit, he should have increased the deficit. And since he didn't, you can't yell at him for that.
Right.
You can't yell at him either for increasing.
You can't say he's spending more if he's decreasing the deficit.
Right. You can't say, oh, his spending is out of control, even though he cut spending by a third over what the last guy had. I don't understand how he's spending so much.
It's really not fair. But you can't blame people for thinking, wait, if the deficit
no
is
bullshit. I absolutely fucking can blame them. If they know enough about it to complain about it, then they should fucking know what it means.
Well, you know who I blame.
The media for not doing their
goddamn jobs.
Democrats should go out there and explain to people, because I'm actually pretty knowledgeable, and I might sometimes get tripped up. Well, it's like, all right, so we're digging the hole a little slower.
Democrats have to make the case for themselves.
Yeah, and we are. I mean,
well.
Yes, but it's a huge accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, but it's like instead of hemorrhaging money, we're trickling money out.
Right, but you can't blame him for that because that's what he was handed.
That's
like saying, here's a guy with his arm ripped off. Why haven't you stopped the bleeding and put the arm back on?
If the president reduces the deficit in the middle of a forest and nobody's around, does it make a sound?
And this is like the biggest fail of the media since they completely forgot to mention that, oh, by the way, we're going to war in Iraq for no reason. They completely blew that one. Okay, this is as bad as that.
No,
the country
they were fed, talking points.
They didn't even try.
Yeah, they're lazy.
They didn't even try. They were so busy, like, ooh, yeah, rah, 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 because they knew it would be better news than saying, no, this is not a good idea.
Well, the problem is everybody tried to give George W. Bush the benefit of the doubt and support the president of the United States.
Right.
And the president of the United States lied. And the thing is, why can the president of the United States lie? The president of the United States can lie because he knows that no one will come after him afterwards. He knew that Barack Obama wasn't going to open up an investigation into it, wasn't going to hire a special prosecutor, didn't hire a special prosecutor.
Well, he could not have known that.
Where
he could have known that way in advance. He figured
he did know it.
Well, it was a good assumption.
He made the bet, and he was right to make that.
In all fairness, Saddam Hussein was not an unsympathetic character. I mean, people were like, oh, okay, we'll get that guy, and then.
Yeah, but that's not our that's not our reasoning for going to war to places.
I agree.
Because otherwise, we'd be at war with half the countries on the planet.
America had a bloodlust after 9/11. We didn't give a damn. We just wanted to kick somebody's ass, and we failed at Bin Laden. And but I'm still furious. I need to vent this rage. Ooh, Saddam Hussein. Good enough. Let's get that guy.
Our soldiers were lied to about why they were sent to war.
Of course they were,
and no one has gone to jail for it.
Nope, and no one ever will.
Yeah, honestly, watch the Rachel Maddow documentary if you haven't.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Hubris,
I mean, I knew it. It wasn't any news to us, but to people who don't really know what the hell's going on, Hubris was fantastic. If you're reading,
it really spells it out in detail what they did and how they did it.
Obviously, if you're watching us right now, you probably have already seen it and know what you're talking about.
And if you haven't, shame.
Yeah, go see it. Honestly, look it up. It's got to be out there. I think it's going to air again sometime soon.
Yeah, so now this whole thing with the sequester is gonna crush the economy. It's gonna put us, if it doesn't put us back into a recession, it's gonna get really, really close to putting us back into a recession, which apparently is what the Republicans want because
that's definitely what they want, because they want Barack Obama to be a failed president so that they can get elected in 2016. And they do not anymore care. Well, they never really cared what happens to the country. They never really cared about what happens to the middle class. They don't care what happens to the poor.
Well, they care about what happens to them. They want to make sure they sink lower. That's what they care about.
Yeah.
They want the rich to have even more of the money so they can apply even more pressure on them.
I think when Mitt Romney says he wishes he could be in there, he wishes he could be in there to protect the rich.
Yeah.
That's what he wishes he could be in there for.
Hey, look, the rich are doing just fine. I mean, the stock market were nearing record territory. The corporate profit, I just read in the Times this morning that, they're nearing record profits. And
any day now, those jobs should be coming any day now.
Exactly.
Remember,
job creators.
If the rich have money, corporations have money, they'll make jobs.
They'll just build factories just for no reason, other than the fact, hey, we have all this money.
Out of the goodness of their hearts.
The goodness of their hearts, exactly.
And that's the thing I actually do argue with liberals about on the occasion. If there's no demand, there's no reason for the corporations to spend their money. None.
If you're making a record profit right now without building factories,
why would you build factories? Why would you increase your workforce if you don't need to?
If you can squeeze free labor by making them work longer hours and coming in on weekends.
Right.
Why the hell would you hire other people to handle the load? Right. If these people are going to work their asses off 10, 12 hours a day, come in on weekends,
which is why the Republicans
a dime in overtime?
And that's why the Republicans like high unemployment.
They love it. That's
that means they lower wages. High employment means lower wages because they don't have to pay people as much.
This is like really a golden moment for these guys. They're making record profits, and they're not going to want to rock the boat by hiring people.
Another huge Democratic messaging failure is the productivity index.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because
productivity used to be linked to wage.
It sounds positive. So, good.
Every time the productivity index is trotted out there, it's presented as something that's good for everybody.
Right. Oh, it's great.
No, it's not. It's the productivity index when it goes up is the amount that the average person is getting screwed.
Yeah,
because now they are doing more than one job and still getting paid for one job.
Right. It's how much free labor, how much uncompensated labor we can squeeze out of people.
Right. Wages flatline, productivity goes up. People are working more for less money.
Right.
And, this is why they want high unemployment, because people will always be desperate. And then they can turn around and say, well, you're not trying hard enough to get a job. So it must be your fault. So no food stamps for you. Starve. Who cares? And it's just this death spiral that the Republicans are trying to put us back into, that we were on our way out of it, which pissed them off to no end, and they hated it. And now they found another way to sabotage it. And they're just assuming that they're not going to pay any political damage for it.
Well, they're counting on the amnesia.
And that's the thing.
That's a very good bet.
And that's the thing. Like, people already forgot
Smart money on amnesia.
People already forgot that the Republicans wanted the sequester. Boehner bragged that he got 98% of what he wanted, and now here we are, a year and a half later. I don't want the sequester at all. Yeah. We have you on tape. Paul Ryan is on video saying, we got the sequester. We got that in there.
McConnell was
Ryan?
No, Boehner. Boehner on Meet the Press was evading questions like you wouldn't believe.
Oh yeah, he was saying, if you have
kept not answering the question.
Yeah, of course not. Because
he answered the question he wanted to answer.
The real question was will you allow any kind of closing of tax loopholes to pay off the deficit?
Hell no.
And of course not.
Unless it's something
Obama got his tax increase already.
Exactly.
Unless it's something that affects the middle class of the poor. Those tax those they'll close in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But if it affects the rich and the semi-rich, nope. Yeah. Can't do that. So that's the sequester in a nutshell. I honestly didn't think the Republicans were going to do it.
Obama should say, whenever one of them says, oh, well, Obama got his tax increases already, Obama should say, they got their budget cuts already, so
let's just wash our hands. And the thing about the sequester is they can literally just make it disappear. At a dime, they can just say, write a law saying sequester does not happen. And that's it. Done. Boom. No sequester.
But you don't say, the Tea Party Republicans are declaring victory.
And they're thrilled about this. And that's something that they should make a highlight reel of. Every time they start going on about, we got budget cuts. Okay. We'll remember that in 2014, you were excited about the budget cuts that pushed us back into a recession. You were excited about it. You were happy we got it.
It depends how things play out. If we somehow avoid recession, if the economy somehow
Let me tell you something. We go into recession, we're going to take the world with us again.
Well,
China's already shaky. Europe's really shaky because they're doing austerity, which is now what we're doing, by the way.
Austerity. But if it turns out that we fare all right, that might embolden the Tea Party. Because, see, we cut $85 billion and nothing happened. Let's cut some more. So, we'll see how this plays out.
I mean, the only upshot of all of this is that we cut heavily into military spending, which, granted, is not great for the economy, but all the military spending was terrible to begin with. It really
was bloated. I'm sorry.
It was seriously bloated. And, it didn't even really cut the spending. It just cut the increase.
Right.
It cut the rate of growth.
We're digging slower.
Slowly,
rather. Slower. All right. We're not digging quite as fast. We're digging slower.
Slowerly.
I think
you're Irish. You drank before you got here, didn't you?
I'm always Always intoxicated. Come on.
I think that Democrats should be talking about how much money is paid for services in Medicare. If you're paying $1.50 per Tylenol and things like that. Somebody was talking about that on MSNBC today. Those are things that the American people should have constantly shoved in their face. You're paying this much money for hospital services.
It's a racket. It's a complete racket.
Out of tax money. It's not the fact that old people are being covered that's causing trouble.
It's fraud.
It's that old people are being overcharged.
Well, the price gouging.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, it's absolute price gouging. I mean, for God's sakes, I have sleep apnea. Okay, and there's a plastic mask, and on the plastic mask there's a silicone gel piece that goes goes on the skin. Okay. And that piece, I mean, it's literally just a thin piece of plastic that's shaped like kind of like a triangle, fits on your mouth. And that piece can be replaced. Okay. And it used to be I couldn't order just that piece separately. Every time I needed a new one, and that wears out way before the rest of the mask does, I'd had to order a whole new mask, which would cost me like $35, and they would charge my insurance like $200.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then they finally decided that, oh, you know what? Then this was after Obamacare, and Obamacare kind of poked their nose and said, stop doing that. And this is specifically, I got this from the salesperson I talked to when I said, hey, can I order that thing separately anytime soon? And he said, oh, yeah, no. The new law says, we can't, we have to do this. Although he didn't really put it that way. But the new silicone piece is like a $12 piece. Okay. And I went to go order it, and they wanted to charge me $65 for it. For a $12 piece, I could find on other websites for $12. And I was like, no. You're not charging me $65. You're not charging my insurance $65 for something that costs $12. You can charge $12 for something that costs $12. And they didn't want to discuss it anymore after that. And I have to actually get around to reporting that because that's obviously fraud. It's so obvious.
Did you get the mask for $12?
Well, I paid $12 for it, but they charged my insurance $65.
Wow.
Yeah. The same thing. My wife went to the doctor the other day, and they told her because she has high cholesterol, that she needed this particular medication. Okay, and she went to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy said it was like $200 a month, and we were like, bullshit! It's cholesterol medication. There's literally hundreds of different kinds. There's got to be some other version. So she calls back the doctor, and the nurse tells her, oh, just get fish oil. And I was like, fish oil? They just went from medication to fish oil? So I looked up the stuff that they had prescribed her. It's fucking fish oil. They prescribed her fish oil that you could get in a store, but they neglected to mention that it wasn't an actual medication, and they were going to charge you $200 a month for it.
Wow.
It was like, that's fraud. That's something else I have to get around to reporting. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. The difference is that they cleanse it so it doesn't have any of the contaminants that you get in regular fish oil. So therefore, it's considered a medication now, even though it's still fish oil. And that's it. That's what they do. And this is why the pharmaceutical industry is so much money, and they exert so much influence over policy. Because they just, the entire medical insurance industry, period, just rakes in billions and billions of dollars on people's misery and suffering. And then people wonder why. It's like, well, gee, if we had single payer, it would be so much cheaper. But that's socialism. Because being robbed when you're sick is better somehow.
Yes, absolutely.
It's,
anything you do, somebody who's already rich has to make a profit on it.
Yeah, if they're not making a profit, it's no good.
You have to give some...
That's why, if you want to give, student loans, you have to pass it to the banks so they can get their cut.
Yeah, even though the banks don't actually
actually originate the money, even though the banks do nothing other than, here you go. They
you have to give some welfare to somebody who's not working, but it's not welfare because they're already rich. So
right. So they're that's capitalism. Come on.
All right. We're going to move on to our next topic, which is the Civil Rights Act. Because, who needs to vote? Especially if you're black down south.
They can vote down there?
Yeah. They don't have a choice. It's legal. They have to let them vote.
That guy. I mean, law. At least,
at least until June.
Okay.
In June, the Supreme Court will come out and say, we're getting rid of these parts of the Civil Rights Act.
Racial entitlements.
Yes. So voting is a racial entitlement. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. What I meant was blah, blah, blah. But
has he said that?
No, but he
No.
Or he'll just say, oh, these people are misquoting me, and they don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm waiting to see if Scalia says something.
Yeah. So, Justice Scalia came out and said...
I thought this was a right. No, it's a privilege.
No, it's a racial entitlement.
Actual entitlement.
Racial entitlement.
How dare they feel they're entitled to vote?
And
they're black.
And,
come on.
Am
I right? Am I right? What?
And what was it? Was it Kennedy asked? It's like, is the government's position that the South is more racist than the North? Yeah, which of course my answer would have been,
yeah.
Well, yeah. Have you been down there lately?
The sad thing is the government's lawyer flubbed that, and what the government's lawyer should have said, well, any one of these jurisdictions, if they had not had a violation in 10 years, wouldn't be on the list. So, you're asking me to make a pronouncement. It's not a pronouncement I can make. The facts are these jurisdictions got in trouble for it. Are most of them in the South? Yes. So I guess you have to draw your own conclusions from the facts. But it's not me making some pronouncement that the South is more racist. The law is not making some pronouncement that the South is more racist. The law doesn't mention, well, it might mention specific places. I didn't take a look. But, any one of these jurisdictions could have gotten off. So that puts everybody on a level playing field. Maybe they didn't start off in 1965 on a level playing field. Maybe specific places were mentioned then. But there have been several decades for them to get off that list if they wanted to. And the only reason why they're still on it is because they kept getting in trouble.
They kept trying to find ways to keep those darn blackies from voting.
And sadly, Obama's lawyer just sat there and was like, blah, 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 instead of actually saying what I just said.
And of course, these are the same places where black people are waiting routinely 6, 7, 8 hours to vote.
Which is intentional, because if you're white, you don't wait that long to vote.
They only have a limited number of machines for you to vote in those districts. So they know they're going to have these long, lengthy lines. They always make
they should be sure Republican districts have as many as possible. Black districts, not so much.
I mean, come on. It's pretty blatant at this point.
I think it's fascinating that I'm always hearing white people from the Republican side tell me that they know what's best for black people. And it's interesting because black people don't seem to agree. Black people vote Democrat overwhelmingly. Black people want the Civil Rights Act overwhelmingly.
It's because we give them stuff.
Right. Because
we give them goodies.
If anybody who believes that...
We give them, rights and privileges. And
anybody who believes that 90% of black Americans are on welfare, yeah, you're a racist if you believe that. Because it certainly isn't borne out by fact.
No.
So...
Well, mind you, they don't know that either. They're just
ignoring. Well, it's not a matter of not knowing it. It's not caring.
No, but
they could check.
What Michael just said is very important. They don't know that because they assumed that most black people are on welfare. And if somebody is out there assuming that most black people are on welfare, you're a racist. That's racism. You're assuming that somebody's on welfare, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're making an assumption because of the color of their skin. Well, no, that's racism.
No, they'll see that one black lady in the supermarket paying with food stamp,
right?
And then they're all right there.
But that's racist. If they saw a white person do that, they would not draw the same. They would not draw the same conclusion
because they're also white. Because I'm not on welfare.
And what's funny is, by the way, every one of them,
no one else is on welfare.
Every one of them has a white friend or relative who's on disability or welfare and doesn't think twice about food stamps.
But they deserve it.
Yeah, but they don't think that Social Security and Medicare. Yeah, exactly. They feel that if you pay into it, you're entitled to it. Whereas
even welfare, even people,
you're a moocher. You're getting
even white people who are on food stamps, because the majority of people on food stamps are white.
Statistically, that's true.
Yeah, so, they all know Republicans. It's unlikely that every single one of them doesn't know a single Republican or just all Democrats.
Sadly,
they don't
a lot
care.
of the people complaining about black people on benefits are white people on benefits.
Yes, because as far as they're concerned, it's taking money away from them because they earned it, but the black people
No, they just imagine that the black people are lazy and that they don't deserve to be on the benefits.
Oh, wait. Depends. If you're collecting Social Security, you might think, well, this is money.
No, I didn't mean Social Security. I'm talking about
food stamps.
Disability.
A white person on food stamps.
I'm talking about white people on disability, on food stamps.
Well, disability is a different story as opposed to just food stamps.
They think so.
They still think black people on disability.
When you hear Republicans talk about welfare, they will.
A black person on disability means that they got hurt. They were taking workers' comp.
Michael,
they don't.
When you hear a Republican talk about welfare, they always include disability.
No.
They always include disability. They won't say disability. They'll make it sound like they're talking about TANF. But they will, whenever you hear them mention the numbers, they're always including disability. When they complain about black people on welfare, they're always talking about disability.
All right, maybe I'm different. I've never actually
because you know the difference.
No, but when I hear people complain, it's always food stamps and WIC. It's like
No,
cash
they never-
assistance for people with dependent
You're
children.
full of it. When you hear
No.
people complaining, you
It's
never
not-
hear them talk about a specific program. You hear them say welfare. I have
Well,
never
I
heard.
I heard him say food stamps. I never hear him say
Well,
WIC.
okay, food stamps
Well,
is the one exception.
WIC is it's cash assistance for people with kids, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
When you hear people complain about welfare. They don't know what the frig program they're talking about. When you start asking them for details about which programs they're talking about, they don't know what they're talking about. They can't answer you. When you say TANF is limited to 5 years, what are you talking about? They don't know what they're talking about.
I didn't know. I honestly didn't know.
You
TANF was
can't
limited to 5 years.
get
That was
TANF for more
Clinton.
than 5 years in an entire lifetime.
That was during
part of
Clinton's
Clinton's welfare reform.
that was his
All right,
welfare
well,
reform.
again,
They don't know that.
And that was
They
because
can't
they-
answer.
that was
I didn't know
because-
that.
And that was because they kept saying, "Oh, these black people on welfare." Well, they didn't say black people, but people on welfare for
black
their
people.
their entire lives. They're on it for their entire lives. It's their entire career, so they made it so you're only on welfare for 5 years, and then you're not on welfare
I'm
anymore.
complicated by the fact that historically you did have a small number of people who were lifers. They were always on welfare.
So what? I mean, you know what? If Republicans really and conservatives really cared about people scamming the system, wait, hold on. If they really gave a shit about that small percentage that scammed the system, then they would also apply that to corporations that scam the system.
Well,
but they don't care.
That's where the real money is, by the way.
Yeah, but they don't care.
Welfare.
They don't care that corporations take billions, where a small group of people take millions because, I don't know, they're black. They don't care about
rich people
corporations.
deserve to be given more money.
Yeah, the rich people. It's okay if the rich people steal from the taxpayer because they're rich and they deserve it. If you have poor people that steal a couple of $1,000s, they deserve to be thrown in jail for the rest of their life because how dare they?
Right.
You know, so
Exactly.
they don't care about the system being scammed. They only care about someone poorer than them getting something without having to beg and scrape for
I think
it.
a lot of people feel a little resentful of people who game the system.
But then they don't say anything about the rich that game the system. They only care about
But if
the
you're going to
poor.
complain
But they
about
don't
people,
see it. I don't think they see it.
wait a second.
That's
if you're
why.
going to complain about people that game the system,
If you point it out to them, well, how about all these oil companies
Mike,
who get free
they
taxpayer
don't
money?
care.
And they're like,
They never care.
if you're going to complain about people who game the system, how about you complain by actually knowing about which program you're talking about?
How
Because a
much
lot of
is
times
gaming
when
the
they talk
system?
about people being on welfare for life, they don't even understand that they're talking about disability. And when you talk to them, it's clear they don't know the details. They don't know which people are legitimately disabled and which people aren't legitimately disabled.
Right.
When you ask them details, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
And a real important detail
I
to ask them,
agree, I
a
agree
real
with that.
important detail to ask them is like, how many? What percentage? Do
No,
you have
They'll
any-
come up with something like
No,
90%.
They don't know. They
Yeah,
have
but that won't stop them from opining.
no,
Oh, everybody,
shush.
they're all corrupt.
They don't know. They don't know at all. They have no idea how many people are on it. And I asked them, what percentage would you think is a problem? 1%? 2%? 3%? What is the problem? How many does it have to be to punish everyone else? Because there is approximately 68 million families-ish on food stamps. Let's say 1% of those people are scamming the system. Okay, what is that? 680,000? Am I doing the math right there?
1% of the American people?
No, 1% of the people on food stamps. 68 million people on food stamps. 1% of them would be 680,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, 1% would be 68,000.
68,000.
No.
10% is 680, right?
No, I'm right. It's
Oh,
680,000.
sorry.
6.8
million.
6.8 and 10%.
No, you're right.
680,000
Hold on.
1%.
You're right.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Math
right.
fail. All right.
Right,
So,
fail.
so 680,000 people are scamming the system. Therefore, you punish the other 67,000.
Okay. There you go.
67 million. Is
Right.
that how it works? And they don't know how to they don't know how to answer. They do not know how to answer. Well, those people should be doing it. And it's like, okay, how many people do you punish for the actions of one? Oh, they shouldn't be doing it. And they don't know, and they get very angry when you pointed to that because they don't care about how many people they're punishing. They're just caring about the people they feel are stealing.
The truth is they want to eliminate the programs completely, and they can't admit that to you. The truth is that they think they don't like the idea of black people getting money, and they have completely racist motives, and they don't want to say black people. They don't want to admit what their real motives are.
No,
that's the problem. That's why when you ask them to explain and you ask them for details, they get flustered, they get angry, they get upset. because deep down inside, it's not really about anything but racism.
Because again, one corporation steals more money from the American people than all the welfare cheats put together.
Ask
all of them.
Why isn't the Tea Party upset about all the people who we know for sure that they broke banking laws and they're not being arrested for it? Why is the Tea Party angry about it?
There's a reason they call them white-collar crimes, and it doesn't really have anything to do with their shirts. Okay? So, I mean, that's really all it comes down to. They can't...
Tea Party doesn't have a problem with that.
They don't care if the rich people steal or lie or cheat. It's okay for them to do
that if you press them, if you really, really press them,
never admit it.
Maybe they're like, oh, well, yeah, and then maybe, but you have to squeeze them. You have to practically twist their arm.
Chances are they'll just get pissed off and stop talking.
Right.
To you.
I have to go back to being a broken record and say something that I always say, and that is, whose fault is it?
Democrats.
It's the Democrats because if I either do it or don't do it. If you're against welfare, then Democrats should say we're against welfare. We want to cut it off. We want to get rid of it. We're not in favor of welfare anymore. If you're for welfare and you believe in helping poor people, then get out in front of it. First of all, don't look ashamed anytime somebody talks about welfare. Be proud of welfare. And actually cite the statistics. I cannot find... The only statistics that I can find about welfare generally are a whole lot of things that were produced right before the Clinton reforms. Right before the Clinton welfare reform, I found a whole lot of factual information sheets that are on the internet. And that's pretty sad because that was a long, long time ago. Who should be out there promoting the statistics right now? Democrats. Democrats should be talking about how many people actually get themselves off welfare and go back to work. And if the number is embarrassing, then Democrats should be the ones to say, okay, we have to reform this further. I don't think the numbers are embarrassing because before welfare reform, more than half of people were getting themselves off welfare before welfare reform, which means, and we know as a fact now that there are less people on welfare than there have ever been. So,
wait. Right now, even though the recession is...
I'm talking about as percentage. But there are a lower percentage of people who are in poverty or on welfare.
Than have ever been before.
The total number is higher, but that's because there's a higher population.
Yeah, but they've been kicked off the rolls too.
Yeah, well, that's
a lot have been kicked off the rolls, but and then people don't know that. If you ask people, and that's another thing Democrats should be talking about: how many people get kicked off the rolls. But all of these statistics, these are things that you have to get out there and you have to promote, and you have to talk about all of the truths about welfare to combat all of the lies about welfare. And if there's something in that information that's embarrassing, then Democrats need to fix it. But Democrats should be carrying the water for welfare. Either that or change the position of the party to be against welfare. One or the other. Personally, I think those statistics are going to be good for us. And the only reason why I don't know is because I can't find them anyplace. I've asked Justin, can you find this information anywhere?
No. I should crowdsource it. I should put it up on the website.
I cannot find good statistics on welfare and whether or not it's successful as a program, which is hilarious because you have all these people who have all kinds of opinions about it.
They don't need facts. All they need is the mouth. And
yeah, it really does. It always comes back down to racism because they always come back to the same thing. It's like whenever I get into an argument with a conservative online, every single time, and I'm telling you, if the conversation goes more than 4 or 5 posts, it always get back to the same thing. Why don't you go out and get a job? Always.
Well,
every person
if they had jobs, they wouldn't be.
No, I'm talking about me. They say that to me. They just have this thing where every liberal that supports social programs.
If you're in favor of social programs, you must
be on one. I must be on one because I support them.
Yeah.
It's like
I defriended somebody on Facebook for doing that. I defriended one of my fraternity brothers who isn't somebody who talks to me frequently. He posted something on my wall about because I was debating him about social programs, and he posted something on my wall about me being on welfare, and I was like, what? I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I've never been on welfare in my life. Well, maybe when I was a kid and my parents got split up, I was on welfare when I was 5 for a month.
I know I was on government cheese for a while, but I don't think my parents collected welfare after they got divorced. I'm not sure.
Certainly as an adult, I've never been on welfare, but it's interesting that this person assumed that I was and posted it on my fucking wall. And I was like, who the hell do you think you are to make an assumption about that, about somebody like that? Like, at least ask me first. You know,
they always say the same thing. It's like, oh, well, I have to go to work now so I can support you and your kids. It's like, what are you talking about? They always say this. If you support it, you must be on one, because otherwise, why you would support it?
Yeah,
they really, conservatives really cannot wrap their tiny little brains around the idea of, I don't want other people to starve or live in the streets. I don't see why this is such a hard concept for them. And if they can use some of my tax money to not do that, then that's perfectly fine.
They don't care.
I understand.
They honestly don't give a damn.
See, I do understand why Republicans.
Or if they were if there were literally families sleeping in the street and they're stepping over their bodies on their way to work.
I do understand why Republicans make that assumption, and the reason is because they're saying a lot more about themselves than they're saying about us. What they're saying about themselves is they can only understand politics from selfishness.
Oh, yeah. I always point that out to them.
They can only understand selfishness. They assume that you're in favor of something, you must be benefiting from it because that's the way they think. They are only interested in getting more for themselves.
True. They would only support it if they were recipients of it.
And my favorite counter argument when I point that out to them was like, well, I donate to a church. It's like, okay, just because you're donating because you think it'll help you get a better prize when you die, doesn't actually make you an altruist. It just makes you more self-centered.
Yeah, it depends upon what. If you're donating to the church's soup kitchen, that's one thing. If you're donating to the church so they carpet the church so it's nice for you to be there, then you're paying for a service you're receiving. That's not any different from going to McDonald's and paying for French fries and eating them.
No, it depends on your motivations, obviously. If you're donating to church thinking that they're using your money to do something positive, that's one thing. But
no, it's not,
but if you're donating to the church because you want a nice pew to sit in and you want nice stained glass to look at, it's no different from going to McDonald's and buying a cheeseburger. You're getting something for you to consume.
Even the conservatives that donate because they, it's like, oh yes, well, my charities help the homeless and the poor. It's like you're still doing it for the reward. You still think you're going to get something for it in the afterlife. Otherwise,
essentially, yeah.
Because if they really thought they were doing it for purely altruistic reasons, they wouldn't complain so much about their tax money being used for the same reasons. But the fact that they complain about their tax money, but they equate their church donations with morality and superior, like I'm a superior moral person. No, they're only doing it for the prize at the end of the road.
The other funny thing, by the way,
they justify like low taxes. Go, I contribute to my church, as opposed to.
But that's what I mean, though.
But you have to differentiate. Are you paying for the cheeseburger that you're eating, or are you paying for the soup kitchen that's feeding people? Well,
no, they always tell me the same thing. It's like, oh no, I donate to charities and I donate to this and I donate to that. And it's like, okay, but then what's the difference with your taxes? Well, I get to choose.
Right.
Which again, it's about me.
Oh, right. Yeah.
See, the funny thing is, Republicans always say that if we didn't have taxes helping the poor, and it was only based on donations to
no, charities couldn't do it.
If it was only based on donations to charities, that the charities would take over and do it much more efficiently.
And now here's my favorite question.
Charities couldn't handle it.
Here's my favorite question, because I get that a lot too. My favorite question is, tell me the point in history that's ever happened.
Well, I always ask, okay, we can look at a specific time in history. The Bush tax cuts. When the Bush tax cuts kicked in, did all the charities' money increase by the same amount? The answer is no, they didn't. The money, the people who got those tax cuts did not give all that money to charities.
Well, no, their excuse would still be, it's like, well, we're still taxing them. But my question, and they always, every single one of them always drops it immediately. Tell me a time in history before we tax people that charities covered everybody.
Yeah, they can't.
Whoa,
but they never did. Charities,
that's what I mean.
Would never be able to handle it all.
Never did.
So that was the first. We have a specific point with the Bush tax cuts where you can ask, okay, taxes were cut by this percentage. Why didn't that specific money all go into the charities? The second thing you can ask is
Social Security.
No, I was going to say the second thing you can ask is, if you ask the charities how they feel about cutting taxes and services to the poor, the charities have said repeatedly, we can't do it. If you stop government services to the poor, we cannot pick up the slack.
Right.
We don't have the money. We will not have the money. People will not donate to us. Don't do this. We don't want it. So if supposedly if the charities they're all donating to agreed with this, they wouldn't say that. The charities that they're all donating to are not on their side on it.
Nope.
The Roman Catholic Church has said repeatedly, no, don't cut government service of the poor. You are committing a sin by doing that. And you are not
That's
helping
true.
us.
They went after Boehner for that. They
Yeah.
went after Boehner and Ryan for his budget.
Yes,
He
they
cut
said
so
the
much.
Ryan budget was sinful. It was bad. And they didn't say, oh, rich people will donate more money to us so we can help the poor more. No, the Catholic Church said, no, you're going to overburden us because we're going to try and help poor people and we won't be able to pick up the slack.
And then Paul Ryan will show up and wash some dishes that are already cleaned in the soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Don't forget, the debt and the deficit are not the same thing. Obama has decreased the deficit by $500 billion billion in 4 years. No president has ever done that.
Digging.
This is what you get when you don't pay attention. All you say is, "Whoa, it's just slower digging. It's okay. I don't mind." Shut up.
That's true.
Don't make me slap you.
That's true.
If a Republican president did that, that alone would be screamed from the rooftops. Of course, a Republican president will never do that because they don't want to decrease the deficit.
They dig way faster.
They always increase the deficit because it hurts government in the long run, so they can cause a recession, and business does better in recessions because it squeezes the market.
Right. It squeezes the labor pool.
It squeezes the labor pool.
They're not going to demand higher wages and better working conditions.
By the way, one last thing. Before anybody says all liberals are idiots and side with communist dictators, all of us think Dennis Rodman is an idiot. So just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, I don't even know. I just know he went over there to go watch a game with a dictator.
And then he said Kim Jong-un was wonderful.
Yeah, he's my boy.
And that there's nothing different between their prison camps and our prison industrial complex, which I have a big problem with.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
I have a big problem with our prisons. I have a big problem with what's
Look,
going
Rodman
on
doesn't
in
know
the
what he's
prisons, but it's
thinking.
not like their prison camps. It's not the same thing.
He thought he talked to Psy. Come on.
Did you see the video? Did you see the commercials, the propaganda videos North Korea's been putting out?
No, I haven't.
About how they're going to blow up the United States?
Yes, I saw it.
No, I missed that. George Stephanopoulos was talking about that.
Oh my God, the video! I swear to God,
I didn't understand.
It was like cutting edge graphics from like 1990. It was horrible.
Yeah,
really? And it was like pixelated.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
The only part of the video,
very kind of like old school, you know, like very retro.
Was it like Zero Wing?
The only part of the video, that actually had decent graphics was the part they took from Call of Duty.
They took part from Call of Duty?
They took part of the Call of Duty, one of the scenes, and they put it in the video because it was New York getting attacked.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was just simply horrible, awful.
You have no way to survive. Make your time.
All your base are
belong to us.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Launch every zig.
Bye. Bye. For great justice.
For great justice.
See, now I got to go put that up on my kite.